Welcome, Chris Principe here from Financial IT, and I'm here at Sibos, truly one of the great financial events that we get a year. It's the Swift event. Swift is the messaging service for all the banks, and of course, because it's a financial event, we are in one of the financial capitals of the world, Frankfurt, Germany. Great host city for us. Along with being great is my guest. I have Kristen with us today.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kristen Kirchner. I work for SAS Institute, and we are also excited to be here at Sibos. It's a wonderful event, a little bit overwhelming, I would say. When you walk in, you see these big booths, but we're having wonderful conversations about how we're getting AI and AI tech to help fight fraud and crime.
Well, this is a really important topic for, I think, a few reasons, but let me just bring out two of them.
Absolutely.
One is because, everyone's afraid of fraud and crime,
Yes.
and they should be,
Yes.
right? And two is, how can AI really get in there and fight with us?
Well, what's really challenging is that it's being used on both sides of the coin. So we have the fraudsters actually leveraging generative AI techniques to create synthetic video, synthetic voice, and actually pretending to be people that are in your life. So you might get a phone call thinking that it's actually your parent, your child wanting to have money from you. And how can you ensure that that's actually real? But how can we on the side of financial services use that in order to combat with the generative AI techniques that the criminals are using to stop that and actually make sure that we're utilizing it to be able to evolve, to fight new patterns, to stop scams, and actually improve our detection logic as we go and as we mature.
Well, I tell you, really great stuff. And, one of the things that you said in the beginning is they're using it also and we're
Yes.
using it. So to me, it seems like it's like an arms race, right?
It is.
I build a missile, you build a bigger one.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that's a constant challenge. How do you address that?
Well, you need to have a foundational layer of technology that can evolve as technology in the industry evolves. You want an open platform that can integrate with new types of algorithms, new types of third-party data providers that bring new insights into fraud that you can interact quite quickly with to be able to stop the new patterns that are evolving.
Well, I'll tell you, most people, I think, wouldn't really imagine that there are these patterns that go on, but sometimes that's the key to solving a lot of things.
It is, and what's really interesting is actually as patterns evolve, they don't go away. So if you think about check fraud in the US, it was, an old standard of way of making fraud that they just wash their checks. It's evolving, it's coming back. So you need to make sure that you also are saving those patterns to be able to reutilize them as you go forward, because the fraudsters will always find a way to get in. And if they can recycle a pattern, they'll do it.
So does that mean we're going to start seeing letters from princes from strange countries again?
We already do. And it's really sophisticated emails. It's really sophisticated voice detection. And I was speaking with a reformed fraudster who was talking about the way that he committed fraud. And the way he was detected was through voice recognition. But nowadays, with the generative AI techniques, he could disguise his voice and he would not actually be detected any longer. So how are we going to fight that?
Good question, right? and that's what you guys are doing every single day.
Absolutely. And what I think is really interesting is that we take our customers along a journey. So at the foundational layer, it's about what data do you have and how do you trust that data? And can you actually put that through a generative AI algorithm and ensure that you trust the outcomes of that algorithm on the other side? So it's important really to think about your foundation and make sure you're trusting the foundation that you put forward, and as well growing that through the technology landscape.
Well, you know what I like also is you use the word that several times. That's the foundation for the financial industry.
It is.
And it's trust. For the banks, it's not about money in the vault. It's about being trusted.
Yes.
And if they lose that, it's that very damaging.
Fraud and crime can be a competitive edge for a bank. It can also be a competitive edge for a technology provider like a telecommunications provider, because how many scam calls are you going to let through? So if you're able to trust and protect your customers more efficiently, they're going to stay with you. They're going to be your loyal customers. So if you are able to put that at the forefront of what you do. And I know we talk a lot about customer friction and we want to get payments out faster, but it's really important that we also trust that payment is going to the right people for the right reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, the last thing that a bank wants is a customer calling up and saying, money's been taken out of my account and it wasn't me,
exactly.
right? So it gives you really some big responsibilities then in what you do. And unfortunately, most people don't want to hear about the security. It's kind of like, I like this sandwich, but I don't really want to know how you make it.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you kind of address that and provide a smoother?
Well, what's really critical is that there's a number of different individuals that have intelligence that they could bring to the table. And way back when SAS was founded, we were a coding platform, and you actually coded in the SAS coding language. But what we have evolved into is a low-code, no-code environment that you can actually bring more intelligence into the platform for people who aren't coders, who aren't data scientists. So they can actually click together new rules and fraud patterns that they're seeing evolve in their data and in their reports and bring that to life in their detection systems.
Well, I tell you, I like that the work that you're doing with the interaction, because you're getting feedback from people, they're giving, and then you have your own work that you're doing on the other side. So,
Yeah.
you can look to be as efficient as possible that way, and
Yeah.
maybe see some new patterns faster.
Exactly. And actually, that's a good point, the new patterns, because sometimes we talk about the magic bullet, and there really isn't a magic bullet. Let's just be a little bit honest about that one. People talk about generative AI being the thing that's going to solve everything, but it's good for some purposes. And those we try to identify and deploy. But when we talk about learning about new patterns, we use unsupervised modeling techniques to look for anomalies, things that we hadn't seen before. And if we can bring those to the forefront and let our investigators look at those, then we can feed that back into our analytic lifecycle and find more of that as that evolves. So it's really critical that you have a multifaceted AI approach to your fraud and fin crime strategies.
Well, it's interesting you say, how AI is being looked at, and people think it's a solution for everything. But I go back to something you said at the very beginning. The other side, the dark side, the bad side,
yes.
is also looking at that.
Yes.
And they're not slowed down by morals, regulation, structure.
Yes.
Right? So
it's really difficult. And we see actually there are fraud and fin crime farms being built around the globe where they actually bring call centers together to commit mass fraud schemes. And it's becoming a business. And so what we have to do is recognize that, yes, we are a bit, I would say, not hindered, but we do face the challenges of regulation. But regulation is there to ensure that we trust what's coming out of the process. So trustworthy AI is definitely something you need to be considering as you go forward. When a large language model spits out a summary of a large volume of text, can you trust that that text is actually accurate? If you have an AI system that's saying that this person is potentially a fraudster, how are you going to prove that that's actually accurate and that they are a fraudster and you're not just false categorizing them? And that's where explainable AI is quite critical and will help us meet those regulatory requirements while fighting the same tools that the fraudsters are using today.
You use the term explainable AI, and I think a lot of people might not be so familiar with that.
Yeah, it's really important because it's along the entire value chain of AI. So it starts with understanding that the intelligence you put in and what it's doing and detecting, it goes through decision makers on where are we going to set a cutoff for a fraud rule? What is the amount of money that's interesting to us? Or what is the score of that model that makes it important for us to look at? And then it evolves into your investigators. They need to know if this model created a score of 0.789, what does that really mean? Why is it 0.789? And how can I actually use the information coming out of that model to investigate it effectively? They're not going to know what gradient boosting model is, but what they can look at is the data that sits behind that and why that data was actually leveraged to send that alert through. Now that data has to be trustworthy too, which is quite critical. So again, we come back to the foundational layer. Data is always at the heart of the value you get out of your program.
And that's the foundation for SAS, is that,
yes.
that layer.
Yes. I mean, we have end-to-end capabilities. So we support our customers in data management all the way through the analytic lifecycle into reporting, and we support that platform on top with solutions that really fight those business problems that our customers face today.
Well, all very interesting, and it really gives me myself a better idea of that fight that goes on every day. And it's not like a battle that you can win. It's not like,
no.
It's just an ongoing, continuous
It is.
war. So when we look at ongoing and continuous, what's the future for the industry? What's the future for SAS?
I think it's why many of us here who work in the area love working in this space. You're constantly learning. You're constantly learning about new technology that comes into the field. You are developing new types of techniques. Agentic AI is the next buzzword that's coming into the industry. How can we leverage that and how can we integrate that? So the technology evolves and we're learning every day best practices to be able to combat fraud and fin crime with those new advancements.
So some bold predictions for the future, what we could see in the industry?
Well, I do really wonder if privacy is going to become a commodity. As we think about generative AI and how much this video in particular would be exposing my voice to the criminal world and their ability to be able to leverage that and actually use that to be able to pretend and simulate myself. We think about this on a constant basis, and everything that we put out there, photos that we put out there, photos of our children. So I think communities are starting to think about that impact, and we'll see whether or not socially there's a change in that. From a fraud and fin crime perspective, I expect that continuously we're going to have a large ramp up in the volumes of fraud. So really critical that we understand the technology that we have today and what can grow with us for the next 5 years. Do we have the right systems in place? Are we talking across departments? So are we talking between fraud and sanctions, which is terrorist financing, and into compliance, which could be more organized crime schemes? Are we sharing that across the banks? Can we talk about that amongst the different individuals investigating them so that we can make more accurate decisions and be more effective?
Well, I got to tell you, I feel a little bit safer after speaking to you.
Thank
that,
you.
that you guys are behind the scenes fighting that battle for us. And,
It's a passion.
Yeah, and winning.
Yes.
So I wish you the best of success
Thank
here
you.
at Sibos, and
Thank
certainly
you.
going forward. And Kristen, it was my pleasure to have you
It
on
was
Financial
lovely.
IT.
It was lovely. Thank you for having me.
Great.